Portions of this podcast are made possible through the patronage of great people like At Lonely Bob, Big Albie, and Goldafish. Since we are trying to grow our podcast in every way possible, even if you can't be a patron, you can still help us grow by liking, commenting, and subscribing to the podcast.
You surely need to get something else before you can sit down, or you plan on standing up and talking the whole...
I might just stand here.
You might, alright.
Yeah, it feels good to stand up.
Okay. Spent a lot of time on your back lately, have you?
No, sitting though.
I was going to say, sitting on that plane ride last week and sitting in the theater watching...
Maybe.
Yeah, alright.
If I sat down, I might fall asleep.
But we don't want that.
No.
Because we're here to talk about episode number 326.
Are you sure?
My Friend Dahmer. Yes, I'm sure.
You didn't sound too sure.
Because I am checking my notes. But not for that. I'm just making sure I have everything here in front of me that I need right now.
So we haven't recorded since we've been back from our trip.
It's been awful. I've missed all you guys. And talking to you. I mean, I've talked to you the past couple weeks.
You talk to me all the time.
Yeah, but...
all day long.
I've missed doing the podcast.
Sometimes all night, too.
That's true.
Welcome to the Vicis Interimo 30 Minutes to Kill podcast.
You are listening to the Vicis Interimo show.
Who are we and what are you listening to? You are listening to the Vicis Interimo show, 30 minutes to kill, more or less. A horror movie review podcast featuring horror, suspense, and psychological thrillers. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Podomatic, and just about anywhere. Just type in VICISINTERIMO. I am your host, Michael Matt Saxon Jones, here with my lovely wife and co-host, Lori. Our show generally has 4 segments: Laid to Rest, where we wrap up any loose ends from previous shows; a short review of our featured movie, I mentioned earlier, My Friend Dahmer. Not really a horror movie, but we'll get into that, I guess. Garbage in, garbage out, where we talk about any movies, TV shows, or books that we may have caught over the last week or so. And finally, we end with a crawling chaos, a topic or factoid that we have never talked about before on the show. Sometimes silly, sometimes serious, most always chaotic.
Chaos.
Yeah. So, let's just get right to it.
Okay.
So, for Laid to Rest, I'm going to say probably not anything that we need to talk about since the last one was The Ritual.
The Ritual.
I am going to just say, if you stuck around for the entire show last week and listened to our crawling chaos from that, there was no need to bring up the paternal issue when I went to North Carolina.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That is something you should later ask. Because, people might be waiting to see what happened.
I can't imagine anybody caring that much, and neither did I. There was plenty of other baggage to carry home. So anyhow...
Literal and figurative.
We'll just keep rolling right along here, and let's just get... right into... Did you have something else to add?
No.
Are you sure?
Well, I was going to say, for those that heard that episode and are waiting to find out, you didn't ask, so you'd know nothing. That's it.
All right.
Well, it almost sounded like you maybe asked and you didn't like what you heard. Or something.
Did it?
That could have went many different directions.
Okay, no, none of that stuff. So anyhow.
You were very busy visiting and doing other things, and...
nobody really cares about that. I don't imagine. So anyhow, if you want to know what we're talking about, go back, listen to the last 5 minutes of last week's, or last episode.
It was probably more than 5 minutes.
Well, you can just cut to the chase and get to the good stuff. Anyhow.
Moving right
along, My Friend Dahmer. Based on the graphic novel.
I now present to you, Jeffrey.
For this, I'm Jeffrey.
Okay, then I present to you Jeffrey Dahmer in his command performance.
Out of the way, Dahmer. Dumbass. I wish I had a best friend.
Jeff's a little off, you know? I think he's kind of hilarious. Hey, Jeff, do you want to come sit at our table? I think we should form a fan club. With you as our fearless leader, we can really disrupt this school.
Everybody ready?
It has been difficult with your mother, so I moved into a motel.
Take a deep breath.
Are you okay?
Hey, Dahmer, it's in the bag.
You seem healthy to me. What about what's on a patient's mind?
I need to talk about Jeff.
What is this? You wouldn't know about this because you're not at home anymore.
You want to talk to somebody about it?
I see things in you that I don't like about myself. I want you to have friends in ways that I never could.
I thought you stopped.
Dad always told me what to do, just like you.
I like bones. It interests me. What's inside?
God, Dahmer, you are such a freak.
He's not a sideshow attraction.
We're just having fun, you know?
Get out of your shell. You need to be more normal.
I'm just like anybody else.
I already kind of let the cat out of the bag or whatever just by saying this is not a horror movie.
Not at all.
The horror came from the dread of knowing where the story was going to go.
Right.
What
Well, he was showing signs. So, I mean, it wasn't just a lovely story about a boy in high school, a coming-of-age story.
Well,
yeah,
it wasn't, and then it was in certain, and it's going to sound terrible, but it felt a little bit like an episode of Freaks and Geeks.
Okay.
A seriously dark one.
Right.
But you know what I mean? It was a slice of life type thing. I mean,
yeah,
a trouble bunch.
It got worse towards the end,
Yeah.
definitely. It didn't start out so bad.
So, I mean, I'm assuming everybody, I was going to read the synopsis, but it hasn't popped up here just yet. It takes you through Dahmer's adolescence. And, of course, we're talking about Jeffrey Dahmer. We're talking about the serial killer.
Yeah.
We'll get to why this came up in a little bit or why we wound up doing this movie.
It seemed like it just focused on his senior year.
Right. But it took you up to his first murder, basically.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, so you have
they made it look like it was like when he was 18, right out of high school, but I think in the interviews and documentaries and whatnot, I think it said he was 19.
Well,
they kind of squeezed... I mean, there was a lot of very accurate stuff in here.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
But they squeezed it, I think, into just... They didn't want to show him over a number of years.
It started out, as always, or as often, based on a true story.
Right. Based on...
We always know how liberal that translation can be, or that statement can be.
I was a little worried it was going to be really off the wall, like not very realistic or not very accurate.
Right.
But
well, here's the thing that I was going to say. What I thought were the most outrageous and exaggerated parts of this movie were actually the true facts.
Right.
Were the things that were most they were based on facts that are, collaborated and agreed upon. Because, again, this is one of those things where we did a lot more research afterwards. For whatever reason, this based on a true story with actual events, I felt a responsibility, whereas other movies, we don't do any kind of research. I mean, we watch the movie and we talk about how we feel.
Yeah.
This movie, I guess I'll get to that in a minute and stuff. So It's basically, the storyline of the movie is just a young Jeffrey Dahmer struggles to belong at high school.
Right.
That's our synopsis for it. The thing is, the struggles weren't any more tragic or significant than what a lot of people go through.
Right.
So, I mean, if you were watching this or you're sitting down to see this and expecting to see wild, salacious details of, what events might trigger what you would expect to trigger a serial killer.
And the other thing, though, was the movie portrayed him as very much a loner. It made it look like a group of guys took interest in him because they thought he was funny. He suddenly found himself from a loner to like being in a little group of friends that were kind of using him.
Right.
But the
doing
interviews,
a Dahmer is what they call it. Doing a Dahmer. And to me, that seemed like that was one of the points where, just watching it, not knowing anything else about it, like I felt like, well, that's got to be exaggerated. That's got to be, taken out of context. But it wasn't. It turns out that was a thing, doing a Dahmer and stuff.
And what is that? Because anyone that hasn't seen it,
acting very spastic and drawing. I would have
like weird outbursts.
I would have just assumed that it was Tourette's or somebody if I saw somebody doing this.
Yeah.
Acting or behaving the way he was.
Right.
But it turns out that he was kind of mocking somebody that maybe had cerebral palsy and he was just doing this to...
Well, and that was in the movie.
Yeah.
So...
And it was mentioned otherwhere, too, in other reading that I did, too.
That specifically?
That specifically, yeah.
Okay. Because the interviews where they talked to his high school friends, and it made it sound like he had more friends in reality. And when they interviewed he and his father together, his father described him as being very, being a loner and being introverted and shy. And Jeffrey was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "No, I had friends," and he was a class clown. And
so it was interesting to see.
I think the movie was accurate in some ways, but maybe they got a little bit of it off.
Well, probably. I mean, anytime you translate something. Well, I mean, that's a perfect example. Truth, reality it's always a point of view. It depends. Two people could watch the exact same event and have or experience it differently. I mean, that's what makes us all unique and so on. That gives us, so on the outside, his father felt like he didn't have any friends and he was very shy, painfully shy, and that's how he did. But Jeffrey, and some of the interviews actually talking to Stone Phillips, I think it was, and we'll actually include those in the show notes.
Put those in.
I'll definitely put those in the show notes. But he didn't said that wasn't true. He didn't feel like that, even though, and he was experiencing it was happening to him.
He was on the tennis team.
And he was in band,
at least
briefly.
In the movie. He was in band.
And he was in fact for a brief stint. I don't think he spent a lot of time in that. Anyhow, we're just jumping right in here. So this movie came out 2017, I think is when it's listed.
Yeah, fairly new.
So let's break it down like we normally do. The acting in it, what do you think?
Very good.
Absolutely solid. Like I said,
I don't have any complaints about the movie,
felt
really.
Like a slice of life. It was, I don't want to say there was any suspension of disbelief. It was...
I was going to say, it might be interesting for somebody, of course everybody, it's kind of hard to not know the name, but if there was anybody out there left who's not heard the name before, it would be interesting to watch this movie and wonder what happened to this kid, and then to hear about it later, that would be...
It didn't... I don't know. I guess what I was expecting, because I knew nothing about it when we chose this or when we put this on here.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about it, so I was expecting more, I don't want to say salacious details or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was expecting...
There weren't any.
There wasn't anything. There was, like I said...
He didn't do anything too weird.
There were some weird things. The collecting of animals, dead animals.
Oh, yes. But I mean...
Putting them in acid... And so, but I mean, there were signs, but there was nothing, no major events.
Like both he and his dad said, I mean, that's an interest that some kids get into, but it leads to a job in zoology or or a veterinary or taxidermy or
right.
But yeah, he obviously had some mental problems and had some different feelings and things getting tangled up with other things, and yeah, I felt really bad for him.
So I mean, you go back to what you were saying and stuff that anybody doesn't know about this. Obviously, Jeffrey Dahmer was a serial killer who killed and ate his victims.
Yeah, he didn't eat all of them.
No, not all of them, but parts of them and whatever and stuff. I mean, I remember seeing this on the news.
Yeah.
When it was happening.
Yeah.
Or when it was discovered.
Right.
I actually had.
That was in the 90s. 91 or
90. I want to say 94, but I'm not exactly sure.
I think it was 91.
He
died in 94, I think.
Does it?
I think so.
Okay, maybe. But I was going to say, I actually had somebody that knew the family when they lived in Ohio.
Yeah.
They evidently purchased a vacuum cleaner. I'm not sure whether they purchased it from him or from the family.
Yeah.
It's just like one of those weird things. It was one of my...
Small world.
It's a small world. It was somebody that I worked with, my supervisor, and he's like, oh, I'm not even sure how that even came up. But you're right. Yes, he did die in 94. I mean,
I guess that would be just one of your...
It was a topic of just something to talk about, I guess.
Well, if it happened to me, I'd probably share it with people.
Yeah.
It's an interesting little factoid or fun fact.
He was a sexual offender who committed rape, murder, and dismembered 17 men and boys between the years of 1978 to 91. And like you said, 94 was when he died. So, generally speaking, I avoid... We talked about this a little bit before on the phone. Generally, I avoid true life crime stuff.
Yeah.
I don't usually seek that out, which now is going to make me sound weird. It's one of those things that when I watch a horror movie, enjoy a horror movie, like, I can put that away because it's horror and it's...
Oh, okay,
you know what I'm saying? Okay,
yeah.
So...
Like, I wouldn't want to see a... Jeffrey Dahmer as an adult horror movie. Like, that's just...
that would be too... Well...
It's too much.
So...
he did some pretty twisted things. I don't need to see that on the big screen.
Well, I guess, but my point of where I was going with that is that, like, if I know these things are happening, I would want to do something about it. Just the empathetic part of me would want to...
Yeah.
But I'm not a cop, and I'm not going to go out and fight crime in this nature. But you know what I mean? It's like the more I know...
You can do a Rorschach. Just take care of it yourself.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a cop.
Yikes.
Go find the perps and take care of them.
Oh my gosh. Well, anyhow, I'm not sure where I was going with that. But anyhow.
I'm not sure either.
So,
well, you said you don't usually seek out...
true crime things and stuff. But this came up.
We've always been kind of interested, though, in serial killers.
Yes. But I don't spend a lot of time dwelling on it, and I don't do those things.
I'm always
back.
interested just because psychology is my background, and I'm just fascinated by human behavior, and you want to know what went wrong where with some of these people. I mean, because he wasn't insane. He wasn't crazy. He did some crazy things.
Right.
But
and legally,
hearing his story and hearing his... I mean, you feel bad for him. I don't agree with what he did.
Sure.
Before I get any hate mail, that's not what I'm saying. I mean, I feel worse for all the victims and their families.
Right.
But it's just horrible seeing a child. He showed so many signs of trouble, and he was just... You see that today. All these kids that freak out and do all this stuff now, and it's like, oh, well, yeah, he was depressed, and he was... on pills, and he was, it's like all the signs are there, and so many kids slip through the cracks that need help and never get it, and then they do these crazy out of control things.
Not everybody that suffers these same things do that also.
No.
So,
nope.
But anyhow, my point was is that And this kind of jumps ahead to the Crawling Chaos, which is, we chose to do this because we visited a gallery. Is that a gallery, or was that, what the heck did we go to?
It's a gallery. It's an art gallery.
It sounds weird, but...
It's an alternative art gallery.
We saw...
Wait, are you going into Crawling Chaos?
I'm just going to say that, this came up because we saw Gacy's paintings.
Oh.
We went to a gallery and saw Gacy's paintings. We'll get more to that in the Crawling Chaos segment. But since we were dealing with real, true-life serial killer stuff, that's why I chose that for this week's movie.
Okay.
Okay, so we've read the synopsis. We talked a little bit about the story. It was one of those things where it's like I almost have the next note here is to talk about the characters, but I can't call them characters if they're, well, in the movie, the characters, everything was well acted. You've already said that you couldn't fault really anything in the movie and stuff. You liked the way that it was played out. It was interesting to see this, and it was interesting to go beyond it and see what happened in the aftermath of this. And that's the interviews that I will include in the show notes.
So what do you think about their high school trip to Washington, D.C.?
Crazy.
You want to talk about that?
I mean, I don't think we're giving spoilers because I think you have to watch this and see how the whole thing plays out.
Yeah, I don't think it's really a spoiler.
And so he manages, Jeffrey, manages to get a meeting with the vice president.
Yeah.
Or get a chance
Mondale.
Well,
what's weird about it is that he and his friends are just walking, they're there for the day in D.C., and they're in the journal. Well, it was for the history class.
Yeah.
But he was also in some of his friends were in the journalism class or whatever. So they're just walking along, and he's like, "Hey, why don't we get an appointment?
Let's go to the White House. Let's go see the White House or whatever."
And they were like, "Yeah, right."
Can't happen. Whatever. He gets on the phone.
You can't just do that, but
matter of minutes.
Yeah, he gets on a payphone.
Yeah.
There were no cell phones yet, kids.
Tells you exactly.
Yeah, sticks a dime in the payphone and actually calls the White House and asks for the vice president's office and talks to someone, and they actually agree to let them all come in. And they meet the vice president.
Not the entire class, but his group of friends. Because they're there. He spins a great yarn. So they talk about this later.
He was charismatic and very polite and always knew what to say.
Despite his occasional acting out and stuff
So when we're watching the movie and all of a sudden this is happening, it was kind of like, right. Like, did they just write this for the movie? Surely Jeffrey Dahmer didn't go in the White House and meet the vice president. Oh, yes, he did.
So, again...
That's one of those parts he said, but that is stranger than fiction,
Stranger than fiction, absolutely.
I'd have never believed it.
Yeah. So, it was interesting, like I said. When it says based on a true story, you never know what to expect or where it's going to go. In this case, we did a little bit more research. That's what we found out.
Yeah.
What do you rate this movie?
That's a hard one. But if you just do, did you like it or did you really like it? Mm-hmm. Can you say either one of those?
I guess I'm going to have to say I really liked it. Okay. I'm somewhere in between liked it and really liked it.
So you're almost between a 3 and a 4.
Right,
That's probably what I would do too.
Because it sparked enough interest to make me want to go out and do more research. And anytime any movie is going to make you more interested in the subject or cause you to learn something, even by accident,
Yeah.
it's a good thing.
A lot of people wouldn't want to watch this or learn anything about it, but I think our audience is a little more intelligent than other audiences.
But be warned again, this isn't a horror movie per se.
Yeah.
If you know a little bit of the facts, this would be good supplementals. If you know nothing about it,
and I didn't mean to imply that if you're intelligent, you would be interested in this. A lot of intelligent people would say, yeah, no thanks.
Oh, I thought you were just saying all the other podcast people are stupid.
No.
No, that's not what you meant either.
Just because I said our listeners are smart. Smarter than most.
Well, anyhow.
I guess there's a certain implication there.
Maybe, but that's all right. So, anyhow. If anything we said makes you check, like, if anything we said was interesting,
I would recommend
it's worth it. You would recommend it?
I would, sure.
Be aware of what you're in for. I mean, again, there's nothing horrible this per se.
Yeah.
But it may lead you down a path that...
Well, I think it might...
That makes it sound even weirder. Never mind.
Lead you down a path. Yikes. I think it's always interesting to not just dismiss people like Jeffrey Dahmer, but to look back and see why.
Well...
So it's kind of like giving them a chance to explain their crappy behavior.
Yeah, okay.
Crappy behavior. That's an understatement.
There's an understatement right there.
But you know what I mean? It's always, if you can look at they're not born that way usually.
Right.
No, he wasn't born that way. He was born with I think he got some crappy genes from his parents.
Well, his father thought that too.
Yeah, so that was good to know too. His mom did have mental illness, and his dad had some weird compulsions. So
we talk about that, or we talked about that before, about whether insanity is, or criminal behavior or whatever, is passed on through the genes, or whether it's learned behavior or whatever.
Yeah. Well, certain mental disorders are absolutely hereditary.
So it's a little bit of... Anyhow, if you find those type of subjects interesting, this would be a good movie for you to enjoy. Is that the right word? I don't know. A good movie to watch. All right. And at this point, let's just move on to garbage in, garbage out. So, a few movies to talk about really quick. What do you think about Red and Red 2? Retired and Extremely Dangerous? Bruce Willis,
I didn't
John
get to
Malkovich.
See part of you and I watched the first one. You threw me off. I didn't know we were going to talk about those.
Oh, okay.
Well, I love John Malkovich.
Well, of course,
so
yes.
They're awesome movies, especially the second one because he's in that one a lot.
Oh, my goodness.
He's
all right.
just my favorite.
So those almost don't count. We can't qualify because we were visiting or we were at home.
Well,
with
yeah, I
family
mean, we were
so.
not.
I was paying attention to the whole thing, but
How nice for you. Yeah, we were in North Carolina at your family's, and I was up and down and moving around, and I didn't just sit there and stare at the TV for 4 hours like you did, or 5 hours. I had things to do.
On that subject, since we flew out there, and it took a while, we got to see Black Panther.
Yes, we did.
And what did you think about that?
I loved it.
You loved it?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Okay.
Immensely.
Oh, right. And then I also watched. Now you were watching some other things because, of course, there was free shows to watch. You were watching. Well,
there wasn't enough time to watch another movie. I tried to fit one in, but there wasn't. So I watched a bunch of Big Bang Theory.
Well, I did
shows.
Find a movie that was 80 minutes long that was just enough time for me to catch the very end of it as we were taxiing on the runway.
Yeah.
But that was Dealt. And that was... Yes.
Okay.
Did I say that wrong?
No. I just wanted to make sure... sometimes it's hard to tell what somebody's saying over the... DEALT, like you dealt a card.
Exactly, because it's the story of Richard Turner. Richard Turner is a phenomenal... Now, the stuff that I see here has him listed as a magician.
Yeah.
He would not say he was a magician. He would say he's a mechanic. He's a card mechanic.
Okay.
He fixes cards. An auto mechanic fixes autos. A body mechanic kills people, takes care of bodies. A card mechanic... So, but they list him as being the best card magician, and the fact that he's completely blind makes it even more amazing.
So was this a documentary about him?
It was a documentary about him.
About his whole life?
His whole life.
Okay.
He started losing his eyesight at about the age of 6. Mm-hmm. Just a big hole in his vision, basically, where he could see things around the edges or whatever.
Ew.
But he progressively got worse. His sister had the same thing. She was blind. But he didn't want to be treated as that. As a matter of fact, if you watch the movie, you'd see this. But he got a black belt. Okay. He's a blind guy, but he managed to get his black belt, and they didn't take it easy on him, and he, so he performed. So here's the thing: if I first remember seeing him at or on the show That's Incredible in the 80s. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
We watched it every week.
All right. I wasn't so lucky. That's another story for another time.
Kids today are missing out.
So I first saw him on that and was aware of it. But here's a perfect example of having eyes and not being able to see. I met him at the Magic Castle.
Yeah. Didn't
know who he was. Could not. I'm kicking myself now. Actually, I was shortly thereafter. Didn't realize who he was sitting at the table, and could have had a private show basically with him sitting there. He was at the second bar at the table with some poker chips and a deck of cards. And I saw him there, and I could tell something wasn't quite right. He knew I was there. He obviously couldn't see me.
Yeah.
I saw it. Never frickin' registered.
Did you know who he was at the time, though?
Yes, because like I said, I saw him way back in the 80s or whatever. But no, yes and no. I saw him, but did not realize that was actually him there. It wasn't until afterwards that I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have sat down and seen some amazing man. Anyhow, what was my point? I suck. Yes, that was my point.
What are some other movies we saw?
That was it. I wasn't going to mention any more for that. I was going to save some of the other fun ones.
Oh, okay.
For our return trip and stuff for the next one, instead of just jamming everything in here. I was going to talk just briefly about Comic Dimensions in Greensboro that I got a chance to go to, comic book shop there that carried magic cards and stuff. Just an awesome, cool place. I'd like to include a link to that, as well as Acme Comics.
Acme Comics.
Yes, that's where you got your Old Man Logan.
I got my Old Man Logan there.
Your pop figure.
And they gave us a nice discount for being out-of-towners. They're awesome.
They did the same thing at Comic Dimensions, too.
That's nice.
So, yeah, it was absolutely awesome. Great place to visit there. So, yeah, let's just get on to the Crawling Chaos, then.
All right.
All right. Crawling Chaos. I haven't decided because I wanted to do something special-ish, maybe a patron-preferred episode or something to do with that just for the patrons. We have our patrons at Lonely Bob, Big Al V, and Goldafish. Thank you for your continued support. I was thinking about doing something that because you shot photos.
I did.
Of
everything.
All of Gacy's artwork that was on display. John Wayne Gacy being the man that killed 33 people, buried in his basement, young men and boys again.
I think the youngest ones were 17. That's why they say boys.
Okay.
The law says a 17-year-old is a boy. Yeah. An 18-year-old is a man,
Yeah, exactly. So
were you surprised when I took you? You want to talk about that real quick?
I'm not sure if I do or not.
Yes. Okay. A couple months ago.
You got tickets. Yay, I love tickets.
Yeah, you came home for work and I told you I bought you tickets.
You bought me tickets. You didn't tell me what for.
No.
You told me nothing about that, but you said, I got tickets.
Uh-huh.
And there's 3 different days we can choose from. We can choose from Thursday, Friday, or Saturday.
Yes.
Your choice. Depends on whether you can get away from work, what you want to do. It's entirely up to you.
Right.
About a week ago, after we got back from North Carolina, the event's coming up.
It was time to use our tickets.
And we had to use them on Thursday because it might not be there after that. What the hell are you even talking about?
Right, because you had chosen Saturday.
Saturday, so I didn't have to get off work. I leave early, blah, blah, blah.
So then I tell you, I got an email from the event people and saying that it would be a good idea to go Thursday. But I didn't want to tell you anything else. It basically, they emailed me 3 or 4 different times saying because of the controversial nature of this and the attention it had been receiving, they recommended you come on Thursday. I didn't know what that meant either.
Yeah, well,
I didn't know if that meant, are they going to be protesters? Are they going to shut this thing down? Man, I spent money. Not a lot.
Well, this is what I was, and so on my end of it, so like, that was, you had that, you at least knew that.
Yes.
For me,
had to be weird,
I hear you've bought tickets for something, and you can go anytime you want, and it may not be there, you better go on Thursday. So, ridiculously, I'm thinking, is it whale watching? Are we going somewhere? Are the animals not going to be there? They've sold you tickets for something, and, you better get there right away the first day because they made it. So I'm thinking of something that's migratory. Something that might, it just wasn't making any sense.
That would have been more fun, maybe.
Here's the thing.
I love animals.
Well, you've done this to me a couple of times, and that's okay, but
I'll probably keep doing it unless you tell me to stop.
I generally don't spend time thinking about things that I can't help, or at least I try to do that in life anyhow. Mm-hmm. I had a next-door neighbor who would insist on, what would you do if you had $1 million? You know what? I don't have $1 million. I'm not going to get $1 million. Why am I going to waste my time thinking about what I would do with $1 million?
Well,
I would rather fix this bike and go off this jump. As a kid, this is what I was more interested in, the here and now.
Right.
So the other thing is...
So you couldn't get excited for it, or you could... Though it sounds like you were thinking about it a little bit.
Yeah, okay. Well, you stuck me with that white elephant in the room and stuff that's like, how do you not think about that now? Anyhow.
Would it have been more fun had I told you...
No, not necessarily. I don't know. Okay. That's the problem. So, yes, it was in the back of my mind. I'm thinking about it a little bit. I don't want to spend too much time. And the other thing is, I don't want to get myself psyched up for something that it's not.
Right.
When somebody gives you a present wrapped in a box, it's like, I can build it up in my mind and then be disappointed when it's just socks,
Yeah.
It's not the...
I wouldn't take you anywhere disappointing.
No, you wouldn't.
So if you thought you were going to see animals or whales, and
I couldn't imagine anything else. I don't know.
That wouldn't be at night, though, I can tell you.
This is true.
Yeah. I'm not going whale watching at night in the dark. Not a good idea.
Those are really cheap tickets.
Seriously.
Anyhow, nobody probably cares about that. But
okay, so how'd you like the event?
Well, here's how I found out what it was. We drove from here to Hollywood.
Yeah.
Or to downtown LA, rather.
Right.
And we're trying to find parking. So we go around the block. We showed up a little bit early. And it's funny because you had said, I don't want to drive by the place because maybe there's a name up on the marquee. Well, here's the other thing you told me. It was near where we saw Gary Newman. So I thought it was going to be that theater. So I'm thinking, I'm going to drive by, or you were maybe even thinking, and I would see the display or whatever, and the thing would be spoiled because I would see a big sign out there that says, here's this event, whatever it is.
Right.
I have no idea. But it so happens that we have to drive by there, and I look into an open doorway, and I see a picture of Pogo the Clown.
Yes.
And it's like, what the hell is that? And it's like, light bulb. I think I know where we're going now.
So first you said you thought maybe it was a serial killer exhibit.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know it was all strictly Gacy's work. It's only about 40-some pieces or so, did you say?
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, we have them. Maybe we'll pick 4 or 5 of them and put them up or whatever. But, So yes, as he was awaiting his lethal injection, which took years, he did a lot of painting. Yeah.
And I don't know how this gallery got a hold of
so many items.
Many of them, but they were all there and they were all for sale.
Well, there were other things too. And
a portion of the proceeds was to go to victims of violent crimes.
That's true.
So there was at least that.
So that brings up the interesting point, but also because they had other things too. They had a set of handcuffs and stuff that were from his trial.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I felt about some of the other things they had there that were for sale.
Which, I mean...
Oh, the handcuffs actually from his trial. They just had those on display.
Still wrapped up as an evidence bag or whatever and stuff. So I'm not sure how they come across that. So,
Yeah, all of that stuff's fine. I didn't like that they were selling sweatshirts and T-shirts and stuff.
Well,
because victims' families have to still live with this, and
right.
if my brother or friend was murdered and buried under Gacy's house by him, I don't think I would want to see a little fan club walking around wearing their Gacy sweatshirts. I'd be wanting to punch people in the face, probably. I mean, yeah, we went and we saw his work, but I feel that's different,
than that? Okay.
Than buying all the fandom stuff.
Right.
You know, but that was just a money grab on the part of the gallery. Gallery.
Whoever was allowed to sell it there or whatever. Well,
Yeah.
that brings up an interesting thing.
I mean, did a portion of that money go to the victims of violent crime? There's kind of this weird.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
That's kind of twisted, actually.
A lot of people, it was interesting to see who was there.
Yeah.
There were the killer fans. There were people that were just seeking the unique. There were people dressed up like this was a gala event.
Yeah.
So there was a wide range of people there.
Right.
It's funny, too, because on the way there you asked me, what are you going to tell the people at work? This was before we even got there.
Well, when I bought the tickets, I didn't realize how I just was ignorant. I just didn't think, I guess, but I didn't think about how touchy of a subject it would be for a great part of the population.
Right.
For me, it was just an interesting piece of history. You and I have seen movies about Gacy. You've read the books about Gacy. You read the books that people wrote about
exactly.
Gacy.
The Last Victim, Jason Moss's.
Yep, yeah, we've covered all of that. So I thought this is a really interesting thing to kind of add to our, our
collective experience.
Gacy stuff. Yeah, it kind of rounded it out.
Right.
I guess to actually see some of these artworks in person, it's. But yeah, I didn't realize, because as soon as that was on Facebook as an event coming up, people were on there freaking out and calling everybody sick and like, this shouldn't be happening and it's disrespectful and it's horrible and so I thought, I'm not going to tell anybody I went. Like, it started to make me like, should I feel bad or...
Well...
Like, it was kind of weird. But I mean, then I thought about it and I was like, well, no, I'm going for...
to me,
a different
things
reason.
like this, it's all about the justifications and the intentions.
Yeah.
I wasn't there to glorify Gacy or anything that he did, but I was interested in learning something from it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to go too much on about this.
Yeah, we've talked too long about it, probably. Sorry, everybody.
I would like to talk more about it, though, a little bit more, and that's where maybe we'll do a separate show.
Okay.
Because I'd
just torture the patrons with it.
Maybe so.
An hour-long, in-depth conversation between you and me, for the patrons.
I was thinking more along the lines of talking about some of the artwork and what I thought as we were watching it, and what I was speculating. Maybe it's more insightful into my psyche instead of his, but he might have been thinking as he painted things. Anyhow, all right, so whatever.
That's what's interesting about looking at stuff like that and thinking about other people. It makes you think about yourself as well.
I'm of the opinion that, those that don't study history are doomed to repeat it, And I'm not saying, but in this, you know what I mean? If we don't study these people, if we don't learn what we can from them.
Right. And just briefly, at risk of opening up a whole nother topic here, something else interesting that I noticed was a lot of people don't know Gacy's story. And like half of the people on the internet screaming about this shouldn't be happening and all you sick people shouldn't be going, they get caught up on his clown persona, and they assume that he was a child molester and was killing children. Like, a lot of people thought that.
Right. Even people that were there at the event, in line, were discussing incorrectly Gacy and what he had done and so on. So
he wasn't... he...
We're not belittling anything that he did do.
No. But he was not...
a pedophile and
Yeah, everyone
using his clown persona.
And that's why a lot of people were so tweaked and were like, how could you ever go see something that a pedophile did who killed children?
Right.
And it's like that, he wasn't a pedophile and he didn't kill children.
Right.
He killed some 17-year-old boys.
Right.
And young men.
But
most
there
were in their 20s.
Some people that worked with him and for him.
But yeah, everyone is just like, oh my God, it's the killer clown. But pop culture has done that. Television and TV, and it's given misinformation. Fake news, everybody. People don't really know his true story.
Right.
So, did he dress as a clown? Yes. He and a group of other men from his lodge, right?
Right, exactly. And it was a business type thing. I mean, they would use that and talked about how fun it was to be a clown.
Yeah.
But anyhow, we'll save more of that stuff for another time, or maybe not at all. Goodbye Pogo was the exhibit, is what it was called, or whatever.
Well, because his artwork titled Goodbye Pogo, and also the one titled Hello Pogo, they were both there and they were both for sale.
Yeah.
And I have photos of both of them.
We do. We've got photos of all that stuff. Anyhow, thank you so much for listening. I'm glad you folks are here. I hope you're still here by the end of it. A huge thank you, as always, again to our patrons, and I don't want to torture any of them, so I don't know. We'll see what happens with this. But at any rate, as always, you can get in contact with us by emailing me directly at madsaxon, MADSAXXON, @yahoo.com. Look us up on Facebook, VICISINTERIMO.
Join our group.
Friend me, S. Michael Jones. Yes.
Because there's the fan page and then there's the group.
There's a group also, yes.
Yeah, the group's a little more fun, so.
Well, I don't know about that, but okay.
Just marginally.
Yeah.
Well, I post things in the group that I don't post on the fan page.
And if you join me at S. Michael Jones, you can see me grabbing Ryan Reynolds' butt.
That's right.
I think we need to end this now before I get into more trouble.
Okay.